Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness some scenes from the next attraction to play this theater. This picture, truly one of the most unusual ever filmed, contains scenes which under no circumstances should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily upset. We urgently recommend that if you are such a person or the parent of a young or impressionable child now in attendance, that you and the child leave the auditorium for the next 90 seconds.
Why, hello there, my friends. You found another episode of the Video Nasty Project. Now, you're probably sitting there asking yourself, why a show that deals with incest and murder and violence and Nazis and rape, oh, so much rape, why we're taking a look at a children's television show from the 80s. Well, here's why.
Those who produced Doctor Who only thought in terms of what they were producing. Within the studio, this is what we do. They weren't thinking in terms of the effect of what they did upon those, and particularly the children, who received it.
Doctor Who was one of Mary Whitehouse's favorite targets in the world. She spent so much time writing so many letters to the BBC, to Parliament, to anybody who would listen. And after you push against a target for so long, eventually that target's going to push back. So that's why we're taking a look at the episode that was a scathing satire and condemnation of everything she stood for. Tonight we're watching Vengeance on Varos. Roll the trailer.
Good evening. Let the show begin. I want to know what this place is.
A prison planet. A colony for the criminally insane.
For sedition, forethought rebellion, I permit your execution to proceed.
I want to hear them scream.
It's cruel.
It's Varos.
No! I like that one.
Kill him!
The one in the funny clothes.
Execute them! This doctor must be eliminated. He smells the truth of things.
They just won't believe the truth.
Truth is a very flexible commodity here on Varos, Perret.
Oh, dear. And I really liked him.
Close up on death throws, please.
How long should I hold?
And cut it. Now.
So that was Vengeance on Varos.
Yes.
Outside our usual wheelhouse, it doesn't really have a lot of rape or monsters.
There wasn't enough blood. I was very disappointed.
The screaming doesn't come into play because Mel's still a season half away.
Yes.
So you want to tell us a little bit about it?
The TARDIS is acting up. It breaks down. The Doctor suddenly goes into this kind of morose, not ambivalent, but just kind of like, oh, whatever, I can't fix it. We're just going to live the rest of our lives in the TARDIS. And Perry's like, what the hell's wrong with you? The Doctor realizes, oh, actually, it's just simply because this particular metal is worn out and I need more of it, which would take him to the planet Varos. At which point we find
it's a dystopian, typical science fiction broken down society where it's this dictatorship and it's this, you're very oppressed. It's very much like Brazil, where the people are just oppressed. The government, well, it was an old former slave colony. It was an old prison. And so you have the high level, the governor and his minions, but they're a prisoner of the system that's in place. The people are oppressed and they're barely getting by.
The governor makes a decision and then puts it to the mass of the people, yes or no, we're going to do this. Well, if the answer is no enough times, the governor gets executed, basically. And a new guy has to take over.
They strap the governor into this chair and they say, okay, now all citizens of the planet vote if you like this policy. Yes, if you like this policy. No, if you don't like this policy. Enough down votes and these death beams come radiating down from the top of the chair and the governor may not die. It takes a couple of times, apparently whatever the death ray is, takes a while to build up and eventually kill him. So he's got several goes before he actually is executed.
He's been through it a couple of times already. We see almost right off the bat, we see him go through another, and he survives, and everyone's like,
Barely.
ooh. And they're like, ooh, he survived. Will he survive another?
And then into this, you have probably the best villain out of, like, it's certainly the Sixth Doctor era, and one of easily the top 10. Syl. And he is representing this mining conglomerate from Thoris Alpha. And he says, I want to buy your Zyton 7 for a ridiculously low price.
Yeah.
The governor, he's all holding out for, no, I need a fair price.
He needs money to be able to help keep his people alive.
And Syl's like, I know I've got you over a barrel. You know, I'm going to just play the waiting game, and eventually they're going to put you in the death chair and zap you with the laser beams, and I'll get a new governor. He'll be more than happy to take my deal. Into this mess comes the Doctor. And then there's running up and down corridors for the next 45 minutes. There's various cliffhangers. There's big monsters.
Well, let's touch upon the cliffhanger specifically. Because I know you were thinking about this in a specific fashion on how the first episode of the two episodes end.
The meta text of the episode is a condemnation of video nasties and violence on television and society basically eating itself.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is very metatextual through the whole episode. And the very last moments of the first episode, before the cliffhanger, they're broadcasting the Doctor trying to escape from the guards, and he's running through this maze of death. And the Doctor goes into this corridor that is like, it's got heat lamps, and it's got like projecting this mental image of a desert in his mind.
Hallucination.
All sorts of hallucinations. Basically, he dies of dehydration and of exposure. So he's crawling through the desert, the corridor, and he's like, you know, sweat's pouring down his brow, and it's like desperately, you know, where's the water? And then it collapses. And they're broadcasting this whole thing. It cuts to the control room, and the guy running the controls is like, how long should I hold? And cut it now. And that's when they cue the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And it is a brilliant meta-textual moment. This basically, it's saying that here's violence on a television, and meanwhile, the show, Doctor Who, the show, is showing you violence on television. It's a brilliant moment.
It's a foreshadowing, a foretelling. It projects from the time period, which this is
84,
85, where we are 7 years out at this point from the first reality show which is basically the genesis of reality shows, which is an MTV show called The Real World. It was basically the first real reality show that hit the air. And it doesn't, the one thing it didn't have is it doesn't have the voting. So the voting was kind of there. It didn't hit the population voting for a few years yet.
It just occurred to me just now, the very first instance of, do you want this character to live or do you want this character to die?
Yeah.
Robin. Remember in like 89 and like the Joker beat Robin to death?
Oh, yeah.
And they had the call-in poll, does Robin live? Does Robin die? And everybody unanimously, because Jason Todd was a prick, they voted unanimously to kill him.
Yeah.
That was the first instance I can think of that was basically Finches from Varos, and that was 4 years after this episode.
There's been a myriad other number of shows, but there's been a lot of yeses and nos going on, late 20th century, we're saturated with it now.
The episode is very prophetic, very foretelling of what's coming down the road, which was, I thought, really cool.
Jason Connery it plays one of the supporting roles, hero as it were. He's held a prisoner. He's the one who's held up, and he has to keep dodging that laser beam at its varying subtle settings. And this is being broadcast to the population, and they're like, should he die? And the yes and no's are blinking, waiting for the people to vote.
The other brilliant meta moment that I absolutely love, in fact, involves the people who are watching Jason Connery get executed. So throughout the whole episode, we have this basically Greek chorus. These two civilians from Varos. We don't know much about them. They just kind of show up in this one scene. And they're living their daily lives at home.
It's presented as husband and wife. They don't really actually come out and say it. The wife looks like she's a homebody. She's at home all the time. Whereas we see the husband, he's coming and going. Like, he's gone to work, he's come home. Where's my dinner? I mean, that kind of thing is going.
And they never actually interact with the story. They just kind of comment on the periphery. They're the ones that are watching these events unfold on their television. They're the ones that are upvoting and downvoting the governor. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that are basically the Greek chorus. And it gets to the very end of the episode, and the doctor goes through and saves the day and turns the society upside down, and he flies off in the TARDIS and off to another adventure. Mm-hmm. It cuts to them sitting in their living room, and the screens have gone to static. And they're like, well, what do we do now? I don't know.
I want to reflect on one thing with that one, with that particular scene, is he asks, what do we do now? She has this brief, bright moment. I don't know. Like, she immediately had that emotional realization of,
we can do anything.
We can do anything, but I have no idea what to do.
And that's the end of the episode. And it's this amazingly just sublime moment. Oh my God, that's so brilliant.
There's a meme that frequently pops up nowadays. You'll see it largely on Facebook. And it's somebody has taken a photo from somewhere on the internet, and it shows a small tropical island with a hut, or it'll show a cabin in the woods. Well, you live here for
a year for $1 million.
A year and get $1 million, but no internet, no television, nothing, no smartphone, nothing. Can you do that for a year? And it's surprising at how few people say yes.
Oh, I'd do that in a hot second.
Yeah, I would too. But it's really funny how few people would say yes. There's a lot of people like, hell no, fuck that, I wouldn't do it. Because we have literally a generation who were born after all of this started, and they're growing up with yes and no. Click like.
There was this story circulating around, a couple of years ago. It was a video where they had this baby. He was a toddler, 1 year old, 2 year old, whatever. And he had been grown up on, handling iPads. So he knew how to swipe and get to the next page of colorful whatever. They gave him a book, and he's all trying to swipe, and the pages aren't turning because, well, it's a physical book. And he freaks the fuck out. That is the end of Vengeance of Varos in a nutshell.
People have gotten so obsessed with the liking and disliking that some people are actually finding themselves convinced that if they click thumbs down enough, that'll ruin something. And using YouTube specifically, for example.
By the way, upload this video, please. Thank you very much.
Yes. Where YouTube, as a channel that has thumbs up, thumbs down, there are people who will, because of a dislike specifically for a person who is producing content for one of the YouTube channels, will deliberately go in there and they corral their friends to do it too. Click like as many times as possible. Click like, dislike, or dislike. Thumbs down, thumbs down, thumbs down, thumbs down, thinking that they're ruining something. YouTube actually doesn't track that at all. They don't look at that. They don't look at the thumbs up and the thumbs downs. They look at how many times somebody watched the video all the way through. That's what they track.
To YouTube, any interaction, up or down, positive or negative, is interaction and a good thing.
Well, yeah.
The other interesting thing about the story that I absolutely adore is the fact that so the doctor comes racing in, and for the other 49 and 3/9 years that the show's been running, you have the authoritarian, the oppressive regime, and the doctor comes in, knocks things over, and saves the day and flies off. That's how 99.9% of the stories go.
Yeah.
This time, the doctor doesn't really do that. He upsets the balance of power. The governor the balance of power just changed for him, but nothing really changes. The rebels still don't have control. The governor still kind of runs the show.
The whole Varos is effectively an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah.
The doctor came in, turned the Etch-a-Sketch, shook it, flipped it, and went, go. See ya. And they're like...
And the last 30 years of U.S. intervention in foreign policies, if that has taught us anything, that a power vacuum fucks that society.
Yes, it
so
does.
Varos, if you pick up the story another 50 years down the road, that society is fucked.
They're going to have a bunch of people who are going to be jockeying for power. And several of those megalomaniac mentality types were left alive. They easily could just step in and continue to run things. And did the doctor really ruin or stop Syl?
Well,
No.
I mean, obviously not, because he shows up in a couple episodes.
He turns up down the road. But no, as far as Syl and that planet,
He did.
kind of. But the doctor leaves. Syl and his mining corporation, they just sit back, give it a little time, go in, watch the upheaval start, go back in and go, we'll give you a hand.
The other interesting thing about the Varosian society is that there's not one single evil influence. Okay, yes, Syl, he's a prick. He and his stranglehold on the economy is not helping things.
No.
But it's not really one particular villain. The governor is just as much a victim of the society as everybody else.
Yeah.
He, in any other Doctor Who story, he would have turned out to be the mustache-twirling bad guy. Here,
Yeah.
he is just a man desperate and trapped in his own prison.
He isn't trying to draw power to himself. He's not trying to draw money to himself. He's just simply trying to stay alive. He's trying to make the decisions to keep the population from killing it.
To be fair, he does have a interest in the populace. He is holding out against Syl for a better price for his people.
It's a matter of he is facing death and he's got to come up with a new idea to keep himself alive. I've said that already, but what I'm wanting to stress that the men before him, each of his predecessors were operating off of the same motivation, and he knows the next guy in the chair has got to do the same thing.
So, at a high level, it is a very smartly constructed story. It is a postmodern satire of video violence, of society eating itself, of the rich versus the poor. It's a dysfunctional society that refuses to hold out for something that is better. A good analogy would be, think of a coal town in Virginia. Now, they're making money from the coal, but the coal industry is destroying the landscape around them. Mm-hmm. But they are refusing to give up their self-destructive ways so that they can have something better in the future, because that means short-term sacrifice, and they don't want to do that. The episode features all kind of like torture and depravity and whatnot, but it showcases these negative traits with a level of subtlety and introspection that Doctor Who generally doesn't get into. Let's face it, Doctor Who is not a very subtle show.
My dreams of conquest!
But in this instance, they did do a very big subtle, are you watching this? Are you paying attention? Are you? Are you going to click like later? Yes? No? You going to subscribe? That's what Vengeance on Varos did.
I thought it was interesting that 15, 20 years down the road, Russell T Davies rolls out more or less the same themes with Bad Wolf and The Parting of Ways.
He actually, through satire, drops the Doctor into a Big Brother house.
But Russell doesn't bring out any of the subtlety that Vengeance from Varos is, even though he's more or less rolling out the same dystopian science fiction chestnuts.
You have got to be kidding.
There was no message motivation behind it. It was simply, I need a good backdrop for the story.
He was using it to ground the episode in familiar territory for the viewers of 2005.
There are subtle messages there. And that's, judging people off of what a manipulated presentation of who they are, which is what shows like Big Brother and Survivor and Deadliest Catch and all these other shows are. Even with the moniker of reality television on them, they're not real. The people who are sitting there is a director who is sitting there with a camera crew, and if he doesn't like something or she doesn't like something, they go, cut that. They'll go talk with the people and go, you know what, let's have an argument, pick a fight with him, and set the cameras rolling again.
So since we're a show about violence and nasty, should we talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room?
Yes.
So there's 2 points of contention for Vengeance on Varos that the moral majority freaked the fuck out over.
Mm-hmm.
There was one where the doctor, they're running away from the guards, and he's just landed, so he doesn't know what exactly is going on, other than the guys in the stormtrooper-like outfits are shooting at me.
He's just finished the prisoner that we've seen on the monitors that everyone's watching with titillation.
He just saved him.
Saved him. And there's the laser that was being used to torture / eventually kill him. And what does the doctor do?
He grabs it and whips it around and points it down the corridor, not at any of the guards. He just kind of sets the laser going and walks away. And so that presumably the guards will be coming along and say, wait a second, I see this laser sticking out into the hallway. They'll stop and it'll slow the pursuit down. The first guard, however, he's stupid and just walks right into it. And so everybody's like, oh, the doctor killed that dude. It's like, not really.
He set a booby trap with a flashing neon sign, "This is a trap!"
And he was doing it to slow pursuit down, not to murder anybody. So that right there, okay, that one's discounted. Then there's the other one, where after the doctor dies at the end of first episode, and they take his body and they put it on a stretcher and they wheel it off to the disposal area where they get rid of their bodies.
Which has this giant vat of acid.
Yeah, it's really just water, but you know what.
Yeah.
And they wheel him in there and they take one body and they throw it in. The doctor sits up. Oh, that was a I'm better now. The first guard freaks out and spins around and bumps the second guard and knocks him into the acid.
Into the acid! The doctor had nothing to do with that.
The doctor had no hand in that whatsoever. The doctor, trying to escape, grabs the stretcher that he was on and starts wrestling with the guard and the guard's like shaking and trying to get around him, trying to get at him. His friend, dying in the acid pool, reaches up and grabs the first dude and pulls him in with him. The doctor had no hand in any of this other than, I don't want to be thrown into the pool of acid, and please, here, I'm going to wrestle with you a little bit. Yeah. He didn't do any of that.
The thing that the most people had the objection to is his parting glib.
His post-mortem quip.
He has this glib quip that he says,
"Forgive me if I don't join you."
And he saunters off.
Which, the doctor, the sick doctor, is a very dark motherfucker.
Is that a ha ha ha, you're dead? No, that's, I'm sorry, you're dead. I'm not going in there with you. He just says it. His delivery is done in a fashion that everyone like, that's awful. How could they do that?
The only crime that the scene probably commits is that it's not very well staged. It's not very clear what the chain of events are, so I can see somebody getting caught up and freaked out.
One of the things that happens with people, and we see this a lot today, is people have knee-jerk reactions, and their knee-jerk reaction is to the use of a word, but not the context of how it was used. And it's just like, ah! And that's, I think it's really what happened. Mm-hmm. Not just with that scene, but the one preceding it, when the doctor sets that laser up.
So, you got anything else left you want to say?
In the couple of weeks leading up into this, I just thinking about all of the things that Vengeance on Varos was basically through satire. This is where society is going to go, and it's exactly where it went. No, we're not voting yes or no on a world leader policy
yet,
and his dying yet. No, but through media, character assassination, we're doing it every day.
So upvote this video. So I know that the Sixth Doctor era is pretty maligned. Did we like Vengeance on Varos?
I adore this story. It's done well, and it fits rather well in with what we've been doing.
It's got a couple of hinky moments. Perry turning into a bird for no particular reason other than we need to imperil the companion. And like the doctor, oh, the TARDIS is broken down. I'm just going to sulk for the next 5 or 6 regenerations until I die. It's like, what the fuck was that?
The opening of the story really was stupid in that kind of regard.
But aside from those 2 little niggling points, I thought it was a well-written, very strong episode. The bad guys were great. Syl was awesome. The governor was not a typical Doctor Who bad guy. I thought there was a lot to this episode. So, yes, I give the thumbs up. So it's not appropriate to put Doctor Who on the same list as a Nazi rape machine or a murders or your Bigfoot, impregnating a woman. So let's ask the question, is it appropriate for the demographic? Is it appropriate for a watershed time slot?
Yes, it's perfectly acceptable. I would be very comfortable sitting down with children, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, watch this episode and not have oh no, they're going to have nightmares tonight.
Instances like the acid bath or the doctor accidentally vaporizing the one guard running at him, those instances aren't that objectionable. They're not gory, they're not gross, it's not really an intense episode. Sure, there's a lot of material in here that's going to fly completely over the heads of the kids, but it's not that intense. It's not objectionable.
They were putting a subtle, and in some cases not so subtle, push back at individuals like Mary Whitehouse. They were telling her, look, you're really going too far with your nonsense.
So no, we're not going to put it on any ban list. It shouldn't be censored. It shouldn't be cut. It's perfectly fine for kids of all ages.
Yes.
And stupid 40-year-old adults. We'll see you next week, stupid 40-year-old adult.
Our hamburgers are the finest, quality beef expertly prepared for extra deliciousness. Treat yourself royally right now. What a hamburger.
And that's our one and only excursion into Doctor Who. Probably. But we still have a long way to go. We still have the entire non-prosecuted list to get through. So we're going to take a short break, recharge our batteries, maybe watch something that doesn't have monsters and murder in it, and then we'll come back with a vengeance. But in the meantime, drop us an email. We'd love to hear what you thought of the 39 or what's coming up on the non-prosecuted list that you're really looking forward to. The email address is thevideonastyproject@gmail.com, and we'll catch you then. Stay evil!
Are they really disturbing, these videos you said?